Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE SmackDown every Friday night after the bell. Except for tonight, we have breaking news. And I was messaging with Dom and I said, hey, I think we got to talk about this. Vince McMahon resigns following sexual assault suit. And he's resigning from his role at TKO, who currently owns WWE. So Vince McMahon, you're fired.
John, I usually tell you don't bury the lead, but I guess this is the lead and we've already got it on the screen there. Just to tell everybody, you said we usually go live right after SmackDown. We were planning to go live tomorrow and wait so we could cover the Royal Rumble, but this story was just too big to ignore. Mm-hmm. The WWE was going over some of their other more pleasant sounding news tonight on SmackDown. For some reason, they didn't mention Vince McMahon's sexual assault and having to resign. Why wouldn't they just talk about this?
It's funny.
This was a long time coming, right?
Yeah, I think this has been a long road, and we didn't quite know when it would happen. But it's officially happened, and if you would have told me 2-3 years ago Vince McMahon would find himself fired from the WWE, I would be like, what are you, crazy? He's going to go down with the ship, right? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, there's some events that led up to it. I don't know if you wanted to jump into that, Dom, or maybe we could just talk about this article here.
Thursday was a big day. A lawsuit filed by a former employee, Janelle Grant, that not only did she have a sexual relationship with Vince McMahon, but that Vince was somewhat abusive and trafficked her to other executives and maybe other wrestlers. The details are they're seedy and not appropriate for the workplace. Probably not appropriate even if it's not in a workplace. Right. Trafficking people, that sort of that power dynamic of, Vince has the power and this is his employee. And, you wonder if she felt like she had to do it to keep her job or she'd get ruined in the industry. I mean, this is why sexual harassment is considered sexual harassment, just because of the power dynamic, because it's got to be tough for a subordinate to say no to their boss.
Right. I mean, that's probably the basis of it, right? Where it seems like you're kind of preying on lower level employees and then, that are in a jam and in a pinch. I think the story said that her parents were bankrupt and he got her a job with WWE. And then one thing led to another. And, maybe we won't get too into the nitty gritty here, but pretty awful stuff was said by Vince. And if it's allegations, I don't know, but if there's text messages and there's any proof for the text messages, then I believe that's a smoking gun, right?
Well, I tell you what, we have a tendency in our society, especially in celebrity culture, to have trials just in the news media. But if the allegations are not true, they're credible enough that they caused WWE advertiser Slim Jim to pause its sponsorship with WWE programming early today, Friday. Mm-hmm. In a move which it said was due to the allegations against McMahon. So this is the modern celebrity world. If there's an allegation that seems to have enough behind it, that's enough for reputations and the big money that changes hands in advertising and sponsorships and partnerships to be disrupted. So TKO Holdings just went for it here. This comes on the heels of two things they mentioned on WWE SmackDown tonight, which was the $5 billion deal with Netflix, and then The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, joining the company's board in a great deal for The Rock and also a good deal publicity-wise for the board. So this was supposed to be a great day of out-of-ring news for WWE. And then Vince McMahon's apparent predation and perverted treatment of his employees took the big headline.
Yeah.
What say you about this? You mentioned things leading up to this. How surprised are you by this? How unsurprised are you by this?
You know, I kind of knew. I figured he, they had kept him on the board with TKO. He's gonna have like a 2-year run with them, and maybe they'll re-sign or he won't. And that stuff kind of went away. The other allegations, but with the more recent ones, it almost pressed their hand when two things really. TKO threw Vince right under the bus, like he. And
the day before, there it is.
Yeah, so I kind of knew. I said to myself, "Dead man walking," when I saw the verbiage that TKO used, where basically Mr. McMahon does not control TKO, nor does he oversee the day-to-day operations of WWE. While this matter predates our TKO executive team's tenure at the company, we take Mrs. Grant's horrific allegations very seriously and are addressing this matter internally. Which meant...
It's like you were saying, this was almost like them going like, Vince McMahon, who's Vince McMahon? He doesn't work here.
It wasn't...
Vince McMahon, who's...
And the other times when he was in the WWE and he had to resign or step down, they was like, oh, Vince has decided to retire. And it was like... And they gave him all his flowers and stuff like that. But...
I want to talk about the bigger thing that maybe now makes more sense, which was Stephanie McMahon stepping away from the company.
Yeah.
Last year. You wonder how much she knew, and I'm not the first person to put forth this opinion, so it's not my totally original thought. I've heard other people float the idea. So I just don't want to take credit, like, it just came to me. I heard people saying that if Stephanie knew what was going to happen eventually, she probably did not want to be in a position where she had to investigate all the details, because this is unpleasant to read about. I can't imagine having to not only read about this, but dive into the details even further when it's about a family member, about your father. He was not only doing this to an employee, he was kind of doing this, disrespecting your mother too.
Oh yeah,
and your family. So I've no information whether or not this influenced Stephanie McMahon to step away, because she just did not want to be involved in this train wreck. But if she knew, it now becomes very, very understandable why she just wanted to quietly get out and let the business side roll where it was going to roll. Stuff rolls downhill, and you don't want to be at the bottom of the hill catching the crap. You also don't want to be the one rolling the crap and rolling in it down the hill. I mean, that can't be any fun either.
Right. No, you don't want to. You don't
want to be a crap snowball.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to be going through your father's crap, literally, here, that he did, and having to go through all of this. I can't imagine what's kind of going through her brain, but hopefully there's a psychiatrist out there that can help her out, kind of unpack it all. But it's a shame, for sure, from that perspective, like the family that he affects around him, because he always kind of came off as a family man. Like, he was always a little evil, he was always like money grubbing, and he was like, but he always felt like a family man, and I don't know that was the case in the later portion of his life.
That's a good point. He's talked about, the fact that they almost mortgaged everything as a family to just get WrestleMania off the ground, that first WrestleMania. He inherited or bought the company from his father, Vincent McMahon Sr. It always gave off that family feel, like, yeah, okay, it's basically the modern carnival, and it's a tough business world to be in.
Yeah.
But, guys can be tough businessmen in a tough industry and still be decent to the people around them. It's not personal, it's business.
Sure.
And it seems like that Vince was, he may not have been the most trustworthy and decent person off camera or, out of the negotiating room either.
Right.
This is tough. One other thing in this article from The Wrap, we got the main article here tonight about the resignation from TheWrap.com. It had been unclear if McMahon could be forced out, as TKO Group's founding documents registered with the SEC include clauses stating that the chairman role could only be filled by someone else if McMahon resigned, died, or was incapacitated. McMahon remains a major shareholder in TKO Group, so he kind of had to resign here. They couldn't really force him out if he didn't think he wanted to. But, and you say, well, they're letting him keep his shares. Maybe him keeping his shares is the way they were able to get him to resign.
Right.
Like, look, if you stay on and this company tanks, guess who tanks with it? Your net worth.
Right.
So do you want to leave and keep your investment? Or do you want to stay on and take everybody down with you, including your family members who still have some stock holdings?
Interesting.
And destroy your legacy. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say about this story and what it is. I might have one more question about it, but
yeah.
Anything else you want to do to wrap this up?
Yeah, from my perspective, I wanted to just hop on here because, and I messaged you earlier, Dom. I said, we started doing this show a year and 3 months ago, and I said, I didn't realize there was so much news in wrestling until I started to make, this show. And I'm like, I can't believe how much news is here. And once he officially got fired, I said, we got to jump on and make a 15-minute video because the views must be coming from this.
The views must be coming. Okay, I got one more thing that's going to make this even more of a bombshell. We have talked about Vince McMahon's life being a shoot and a work.
Yeah.
It is the eve of the Royal Rumble. Vinnie Mac is number 30 in the men's Royal Rumble tomorrow. They had to cook up this whole story so that he could be off of the board so that he could come out and compete in the men's Royal Rumble. I'm calling it right here tonight. So when it happens, you heard it here first on Don't Bury the Lead.
He should do it. That would be the move of the century. That would be like the most famous wrestling incident or wrestling event ever. Like, oh my God, remember when Vince McMahon got fired and then came up with the Royal Rumble as entrant number 30?
And won it and beat Roman Reigns to end his historic title reign. So, hey, watch the Royal Rumble tomorrow. And fans love to count. We're going to be counting all the way to number 30 and wondering if it's going to be Mr. McMahon.
I noticed that Vince sold a lot of his TKO stock and he's sitting on a lot of cash. And now that TKO has kind of released him, what if he ends up in AEW? Would that just be like the craziest thing? That he suddenly one day, maybe like 3 months from now, Tony Khan, he's like, oh, I have a special announcement. And Vince McMahon walks out and then he's part of the company now,
Like when Vinnie Mac brought the WCW guys in and then one day had Eric Bischoff show up a couple of years later.
Right.
And people are like, oh, we never thought we'd see this. They hated each other. At least we thought they hated each other. Oh, so there are so many shoot work possibilities here. It's pro wrestling. We don't want to make light of the fact that it is a real lawsuit and real people may have gotten hurt, but
yeah,
it's carnival barking, folks.
Sure.
We go in for the insanity as well as the fact that, hey, it's real news. This is the business. The segment is called Cheap Heat, so I hope you weren't expecting a lot of high-class mannerisms from me.
Right.
All right, it's hot in here, and it's inexpensive.
It's hot in here, it's inexpensive, and we're going to drop off now